everyone, I just wanted to quickly go over my Serena build for the Ice Maiden. It's quite similar to other builds out there, so I'm not going to take too much credit. There's some differences in modules, weapon readjustments and Arche Tuning, along with different rotation for the actual boss fight. This build specifically can get consistent 4-second kills against the Ice Maiden. However, if you want to aim for that 3-second kill, it could take you several hundred attempts to even get that perfect run. As of making this video, I'm currently 8th on the leaderboard for Serena with 3.5, with first place being 0.4 seconds faster. For Serena's modules, we're no longer building for HP anymore, so you're going to have to reinvest some crystals. Instead, we're going for full crit rate, crit damage and skill power. The only reason we're going for crit rate is so that we can get more consistent procs of hyper focus. This module specifically grants firearm focus, which is whenever you land a skill critical hit on an enemy, it will provide us a buff of 12.4% firearm critical hit damage. The only reason this is important is because this is additive, meaning it's added to the base firearm critical hit damage before any other modifiers, such as better concentration. This is absolutely massive, and it's one of the reasons why we deal so much damage. Now I'm using maximize power for the most skill power modifier. The nice thing about this build is we don't need that much skill power, because whenever we break the shoulder of the Colossi, we get a buff for skill power, meaning we can just fully build into skill power modifier. However, it is nice to have a little bit of skill power, since there's not many other modules that you can use to replace this anyway. So I'm using Maximize Power, Stim Accelerant, Front Lines, Fire Sanctium, Skill Concentration, Hyper Focus, Fire Specialist, Iron Defense, Emergency Measures, and Skill Insight. Now technically you could also go for less skill critical hit rate, however with more skill critical hit rate you'll have a higher chance of critting, allowing you to proc Hyper Focus more often. And the only reason I'm using Stim Accelerant is for the extra HP. Technically, you don't even need to use this, you could even just remove it entirely. I've seen some people using the acceleration module. I personally would suggest against it, it just depends on how you want to play. If you get used to using the acceleration module, you can still use it. However, with the rotation that I'm currently using, there's no need for the acceleration module. It just depends because you'll have to change your rotation to adapt to the new timings. As for my Arche Tuning, I've taken a slightly different route from other builds I've seen. It's still quite similar because we're utilising both mutant cell slots for the same socket types, which is the triangle and the atom. The only one we really need is defense and neutralization, just so we can lower the defense and resistances of the Colossi. We technically don't need Arche reload. It's just convenient to have since we'll be more consistent with our crits. However, it's not necessary. It is, however, the second best mutant cell that you can add to the build. This is the current path that I take, mainly picking up purple nodes for the skill power, the additional attack against Colossus, the crit rate, crit damage, and firearm attack, while we're working our way towards these mutant cell slots. As for my Inversion Reinforcement, I'm currently using Strike Point Amplification for the extra weak point damage, then Fire Focus Rounds for the additional fire attack up to 5 stacks, and Aerial Maneuvering Radar for the extra multi-hit chance. Now for the weapons, Restored Relic, I'm using 3 fire rate cores with 2 fire attack cores. Obviously, the faster we fire, the faster we can switch off of the Restored Relic. And for the readjustments, I'm using Explosive Attack, Multi-Hit Chance, and Multi-Hit Damage. And I ended up switching my firearm attack against Colossus for weapon change speed, so that I could change my weapon faster to the Smithereens, so that I could kill the boss faster. We mainly just used the Restored Relic to break the Ice Maiden's weak points super early, so that we can get the skill power buff. And since on the base of this weapon it has fire attack, we want to primarily build for fire and just basically base damage. What I go for is 3 explosive attack, action and reaction, charge amplification, rifling reinforcement, along with 2 multi-hit modules for multi-hit chance plus 40 and multi-hit damage plus 100, 2 fire attack modules, firearm enhancement and fire priority. Then we just have fire rate, better weapon weight for the change speed so we change off of the weapon faster, along with multi-bullet for some extra damage. Now for the shotgun I'm using is the Smithereens, and the main reason we're using this is for the unique ability, which grants us 100% crit rate along with more critical hit damage. And on top of that you also get the more shells from each shot you fire at the bottom. This basically allows us to complete completely ignore all crit rate modules and go straight for damage on this weapon. On the free core, I'm using fire rate, then I'm using firearm attack, then 2 aimed shot accuracy. You can go for hip shot accuracy as well, just depends how you want to play the game. And then for the readjustments, I'm using multi-hit chance, multi-hit damage, firearm attack, and firearm attack against Colossus. As for the modules, this is what I'm currently running. I'm basically aiming for as much multi-hit chance and multi-hit damage as possible, along with firearm attack and more crit damage and fire rate. So we use action and reaction along with rifling reinforcement for the firearm attack, better concentration for more firearm critical hit damage, then 2 multi-hit modules for multi-hit chance, as much multi-hit chance as we can, along with some additional multi-hit damage. We do lose some firearm critical hit damage, but the plus 50% multi-hit chance is way worth it, since this applies to all pellets on the shotgun. Shell up basically just gives us even more pellets that we fire. Fire rate just lets us fire faster. Then for the fire attack modules, we're using heat circulation when inflicting burn, fire attack plus 8 to 9%. And the nice thing about this is that we're inflicting burn from fire enhancement. Since we're given the weapon fire attack simply by equipping this module, it allows us to proc heat circulation. And on top of that, whenever the enemy is burning, we're using fire conductor, which gives our firearm even more damage. Now I've seen some builds using accuracy modules. Since the weapon has accuracy cores, you don't actually need any modules to have accuracy, since on the actual weapon itself, you're already basically at the cap for how much accuracy you have. Adding an extra accuracy module will get you to the cap of 100, however I find this completely unnecessary to do so. Another thing is that you can also save a module slot by completely removing any extra magazine sizes that you have or any weak point damage. They're not completely useless, but there are better modules that you could use in their place. Now for the reactor, I'm using a burning singular reactor for the fire skill power and singular skill power, with weapon mounting for both rocket launcher and shotgun for that extra 6% increase. And for the substats, I'm using skill critical hit damage and additional skill attack against Colossus. Now for the components, I'm using 2-piece shell crusher with MP recovery and max HP, max MP and MP recovery. This is just for the fire rate, so we can fire the weapons 5% faster, which allows us to get slightly faster clear times as well. And for my 2 other components, I'm using the 2-piece volcanic set for the fire skill power with defense and MP recovery and max shield and shield recovery. Now technically you could replace this with the plague set for the singular skill power if you wanted. However, there's not really much difference between the two. Just one is slightly better than the other, but not by much. Now for the rotation in the actual boss fight, you want to wait for the timer to reach 3 seconds, activate your wings, then activate your 4th skill, do a small dash forward, then fire all the shots from your restored relic, then quickly swap weapons to the Smithereens, use your 1st skill, then fire all the shots from your shotgun. Hopefully you found the video helpful. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.